Welcome. This is my first video podcast on YouTube. I give some of the credit to my friend O'Shea Duke Jackson. He's been encouraging me to do at least a handful of YouTube podcasts. So here I go. Now it's interesting. I did an audio podcast on Blog Talk Radio for 9 years. 9 years. So I'm a seasoned veteran of audio podcasts. But I want to say this is my first attempt at doing a live video podcast on YouTube. First ever. Now, I've done video interviews on YouTube before, but they were always either pre-recorded or if they were live, they were on someone else's channel other than my own. So this is my first live video podcast on my own channel. And if anybody's watching, welcome. I didn't tell anybody ahead of time, so I might not have any viewers or listeners. But here we go. This is not going to be long. More than likely, it's going to last maybe about 20 minutes. And then I'm going to be done with it. I only have a few things to say. For the most part, this is just a test to see how much I like it, see if it would be something I'll be interested in doing in the near or distant future. I have a lot of friends and acquaintances who have their own popular YouTube channels. To name a few, I mentioned one, O'Shea Duke Jackson. I did a couple video interviews with him in the last few weeks. I love that young brother. He's very intelligent. He's very funny. Obsidian, the podcast, Obsidian is very outspoken. He's very thorough in his research, and he just knows how to shred people to pieces with factual data. Angry Man is just a real brother. You know what I'm saying? I mean, he just got that street edge to him. He's just hardcore real. Doesn't mince words, just lays it all out there, and he just got a lot of that fire. That fire, you know, in the NBA, they say Russell Westbrook has that fire, and that's what Angry Man has. Ron Wills, fellow author, who's actually mentioned in my first book, Mode 1. He's very thorough in his analysis of the dating and relationship scene in the 21st century. I love watching his YouTube podcast, as well as Black Gnostic Speaks. And there's a number of others I can name. There's a list that can go on, but those are just a few of the guys who have inspired me to take a dab at this YouTube video deal and see what's happening. A few things I want to talk about. Like I said, it's not going to be long, about 20 minutes. First warning would be, if you're a guy or a woman who's kind of a verbal prude type, you don't really like much profanity, you don't like to listen to sexually provocative or sexually explicit language, I'm going to give you about 10 seconds to just go ahead and do something else, because you don't want to listen to me, because I am no PG-13 conversationalist. I tend to use a lot of spicy language. I try not to do it in a gratuitous manner, but that's just how I am. And so, yeah, I'm one to say fucking instead of making love. I'm one to say dick instead of penis. I'm one to say pussy instead of vagina. I'm not into all those Disney Channel type tame words. You know, I keep it as provocative and real as I can. Okay. Number one, for a brand new listener or viewer who's watching me right now and says, who the hell is that black guy? I don't know who the hell that is. I've never seen him before, never heard of him. I'm going to duck my head. You see that Mode 1? Mode 1. I have a book out called Mode 1. Well, I got actually two versions. One is called Mode 1, Let the Women Know What You're Really Thinking. That's my original title. And now I just did a recent update that's available on Amazon. It's called Mode 1, Whisper into a Woman's Ear What Is Really on Your Mind. Now, in case you're wondering, why did I change the subtitle for the updated version? Because a lot of men had this mistaken impression that to exhibit mode 1 behavior was about going up to a woman and just yelling some shit out. Like, hey, baby, I want to fuck the shit out of you. No, that's not what mode 1 is about. When I do choose to use what I refer to as erotic dirty talk with women, 95% of the time, I'm whispering in a woman's left ear. I'm whispering in a woman's left ear. So that's why I changed the subtitle. Mode 1, whisper into a woman's ear what is really on your mind. So I'm the author of that book. I have another book called Ooh, Say It Again, Mastering the Fine Art of Verbal Seduction and Oral Sex. Not oral, but aural, A-U-R-A-L. That's my book that centers on the art of verbally seducing women using what I just mentioned, erotic dirty talk. I have another book called The Possibility of Sex, How Naive and Lustful Men Are Manipulated by Women Regularly. And that centers on the women who I refer to as manipulative time wasters. And Ooh, Say It Again centers on the women who I refer to as wholesome pretenders. And then another paperback and ebook is Upfront and Straightforward. Let the manipulative game players know what you're really thinking. And oh, my most recent book, The Beta Male Revolution. The Beta Male Revolution. Why many men have totally lost interest in marriage in today's society. Now, that book is one of maybe only 2 books that is geared towards both the male reader and the female reader. So I think both men and women will get something out of that. Other than introduce, like I said, I did an audio podcast for 9 years on Blog Talk Radio entitled Upfront and Straightforward. You can find my old archived episodes on iTunes, and you can find them on the Blog Talk Radio site itself. Yeah, I did that show from June of 2007 through June of 2016, and then I called it quits. So I thought I was done with the whole podcasting, but like I said, I'm testing out this whole video podcasting thing, see what it's about, see if I might like it, see if I might want to do some regular or semi-regular video podcasts in the near or distant future. I did another podcast program, audio podcast program entitled The Erotic Conversationalist. Now that show is that show is very risque. It involves me interviewing a number of women. I think right now I have about 11, 12 episodes of that show. Only do it episodes of that show sporadically, maybe 1 or 2 episodes a year, starting with summer of 2009. And it's definitely not for the people with prudish sensibilities. That's for more free-spirited, open-minded, sexually liberated type men and women. Because on most of the episodes, at least 20% or more of the content is just full-blown, hardcore, kinky phone sex with myself and my female guests. So some pretty hot episodes. I receive feedback for that podcast program from women literally every week. Like every week. Like I did an episode with a guest named Brandy L. Davis. I think I recorded that episode in December of 2011. You're talking about over 5 years ago. To this day, I still receive feedback every week on that episode. Every week on that episode. So yeah, I'm still doing that show, but like I said, I do that very occasionally. Okay, now getting past my introduction, who I am. I mentioned a YouTube host by the name of Obsidian. Now, if you're a regular of YouTube, and particularly African-American YouTube hosts, male and female, you'll know that there's been like kind of this gender war going on. You know, a lot of the black female YouTube hosts have been expressing scathing comments about the black male YouTube hosts, and to a certain extent, vice versa. And there's been this whole controversy with a lot of black female YouTube hosts trying to get black male YouTube host channel deleted, or at least specific podcast episodes of theirs deleted. And Obsidian was involved in a controversy with this one so-called prominent attorney, if she says so, where she's been bringing my name into the issue. She's been bringing my name into the issue so much that I recently publicly announced that I was going to pursue potential legal action against her and this host named Crystalline Karazin for slandering my name and defaming my character. Now, I actually did speak with an attorney yesterday. And right now, the disappointing news for some of my fans who wanted to see me go full force against these ladies is that my legal proceedings will be on hold for now. Right now, my lawyer felt like it is just not enough really hardcore ammunition for me for it to really take up my time, the investment of time and money pursuing this case. So I'll say right now, I'm going to put it on hold. But one of the reasons I did want to do this video is to express some commentary related to this. First of all, if you're not familiar with those terms, defamation of character, and there's two specific forms of defamation of character, and that would be slander and libel. Libel is the written form of defamation of character, and slander is the verbal form of defamation of character. What does it mean to slander someone's name or defame someone's character? To slander someone is to express an opinion about someone as if it is fact, but you cannot support that opinion with any factual evidence. For example, if I was to go on a show and I was to say, in my opinion, I think Oprah Winfrey might have leanings towards being a lesbian, she could never accuse me of slander because I'm prefacing that comment by saying, in my opinion. Now, if I was to go on some national TV show or national radio show and say something to the effect of, it's a known fact that Oprah Winfrey is a lesbian, there's no doubt about it, she's definitely a lesbian, and I express that as if it's a fact, then she would have grounds for slander and defamation of character, particularly if I can't provide any factual evidence to support that allegation or that accusation. So for you types who do YouTube shows or talk radio shows, or you write articles, you have to watch yourself when you make statements about other people. You cannot express opinions as if they are facts. That's when you get into the territory of being able to be accused of slander and defamation of character, or libel, again, if it's in written form, defamation of character. Like, for example, one of the statements that this so-called prominent attorney is that she said on her Facebook page, just flat out, Alan Roger Currie hates black women. Bless her heart. Does this woman know that I grew up in Gary, Indiana, which at one time was like the second or third highest percentage of black people in America. I grew up around all brothers and sisters, dated nothing but sisters. And this woman gonna say I hate sisters? Like I just hate all my black female cousins that I got all over the country? Black women supported my books. Black women provide me with feedback for both my shows, Upfront and Straightforward and Erotic Conversationalist. How fucking ridiculous is that? You tell me. Check this out. Check this out. Check this out. Wait, I got to get a swig. My mouth gets dry real quick. I'm getting a free promo. Vitamin Water Zero. I love this stuff. You know, I didn't particularly care for Tom Brady, but now I'm a fan of his because he's this real health and fitness nut. And he said he drinks nothing but Vitamin Zero. Love this stuff. It used to be peach Snapple, but peach Snapple ended up giving me type 2 diabetes. So I had to let that shit go. So this woman, this prominent attorney, she said, hey, black women, but check this out. I interviewed this woman on April 21st of 2011. And at the time I interviewed her, she was part of I had a Facebook group called the Female Listeners and Supporters of Alan Roger Currie. Had about 600 women in the group at its highest number. Of those 600 women, I would say at least 85% of those women were black women, including this prominent attorney who's in my late mother's sorority. And this woman, now check it out, on one video podcast hosted by this YouTuber named Currie, she borrows former First Lady Michelle Obama's phrase, when they go low, we go high. What that means, when Michelle Obama expressed that comment, what she meant was, if somebody expresses a harsh, highly subjective criticism about me or hurls a personal insult my way, I'm not going to reciprocate that with a harsh, subjective criticism or personal insult of my own. That's what that means when Michelle Obama said, when they go low, we go high. That means when somebody calls her a name, she's not going to return the favor and call them a name back. If somebody insults her below the belt, she's not going to return the favor and insult them below the belt back. So this prominent attorney says on the podcast, when they go low, speaking of the black male YouTubers, when they go low, we go high. But then like 10 seconds later, she calls me a jackass who hates black women. So then in the second podcast, she takes it a step further. She calls yours truly, Alan Roger Currie, aka the king of verbal seduction. A sister gave me that nickname, matter of fact. She refers to me as sleazy, carnal, a horrible person. I think Crystalline Kerrison said that that as a dating coach and a men's advisor, that I encourage single heterosexual men to verbally communicate vile filth to women. You just got to pray for these sisters. You know, I ain't the most religious person, but you got to pray for these sisters because they're lost. They're lost. Let me break something down to you women watching this video right now. Fellas, you can go take a break and get something to drink and get something to eat because I just want to talk to some of the ladies right now. Okay. Some of you ladies in April of 2017, what's the day? April 5th, 2017. Some of you ladies have this misguided belief that for a man, a single heterosexual man, to pursue women for short-term and or non-monogamous casual sex is somehow this highly immoral infraction against women that is representative of disrespecting women, that is representative of degrading women, that is representative of objectifying women. O'Shea Duke Jackson, if you listening, I'm going to borrow your statement, man. Calypso organ, because I'm getting ready to preach right now. I'm getting ready to preach, ladies, so listen up. Check this out. Check this out. Check this out. In the 19th century, in the first 4 to 5 decades of the 20th century, for a woman to even think about having sex with a man that was not her husband was at bare minimum considered terribly improper. In some households, the thought of it was considered disgusting. Okay? Make a mental note of that, ladies. See, about 100 years ago from right now, if you even thought about having sex with a man that was not your husband, that was considered at bare minimum socially improper and at maximum disgusting and immoral. That's what it was considered. It was expected of every woman in American society that she would be a virgin at the time that she was married. Let me repeat that. For pretty much the entire 19th century, in the first 4 to 5 decades of the 20th century, it was pretty much expected that a woman remain a virgin until her wedding night. So 100 years ago, if any man was to approach a woman and even remotely suggest that he was interested in engaging in sex with a woman outside the context of marriage, then yes, that was considered offensive. That was considered insulting. That was considered disrespectful. That was considered degrading. So all those accusations that women of today throw around at men, 100 years ago, those accusations and criticisms were valid because women weren't fucking before they got married. There was a small percentage that were, and those women were quickly labeled sluts, whores, tramps, harlots, and any other disparaging label that men and women could think of. So you would bring shame to your family if you're a woman and you decided to engage in sex before you were married for the first time or just generally outside the context of marriage. You were considered the lowest of low as far as women were concerned. Okay? You got that? Get it, got it good. Okay, check this out. Check this out. Check this out. Then, starting with, I want to say roughly the end of World War II, all the way up until the early 60s. Guess who not only protested for equal employment opportunities? Guess who not only protested for equal salary earning opportunities, but on a more personal and social level, guess who it was that protested for the opportunity to be able to have sex with whoever they wanted to, regardless of whether they were married to that person or not? Was it men or was it women? Ladies, it was your gender, okay? It was your gender. It was women. Women protested for the right to be able to fuck whoever they wanted to fuck without being criticized, without having judgment passed on them, without having their love lives and sex lives scrutinized publicly. It was women who protested for that. There were no men out in the streets with signs saying, my mother, my sister, my daughter should be able to fuck whoever they want to fuck. Show me a photograph of that. Show me a video of that, of a heterosexual man walking around with a big sign that said, I want my mother, sister, and daughter to be able to have sex with whoever they want to have sex with, regardless of if a ring is on their finger or not. No man ever did that. It was women who were protesting for the right to have casual sex without people, again, criticizing them, passing judgment on them, and scrutinize them in a public manner. Okay, you get that? Get it, got it, good. So women wanted to be more comfortable. They wanted to feel free to have sex with a man, regardless of if that man was the husband, fiance, long-term boyfriend, or a guy they just met 2 days ago at the local grocery store. They wanted the right to be, well, number one, legally, they already had their rights. So let me make that clear. It wasn't like premarital sex or casual sex was illegal prior to the 1960s. That would not be true. So legally, women always had the right to engage in sex either before marriage or outside the context of marriage. But there was a heavy-duty social stigma attached to the women who did prior to the 1960s. Again, if you, like, I know women, like my mother, I'll use my mother as an example. My mother told me many times that when she was growing up in my grandparents' household, if her or her sisters even hinted that they wanted to have sex before they got married, there was a greater than 50% chance they would be kicked out the house. That's how serious that was. And a lot of women were. A lot of women back in the day, say 100 years ago or so, there were women who got kicked out of their father's house for engaging in sex before marriage. And if a woman got pregnant, oh, Lord. First, a lot of women's fathers would go to the boy's home who got their daughters pregnant, and they would threaten to kill that guy. That's where the term shotgun wedding came from. Some guys would literally go to a guy's home with a shotgun, and they would tell the father of the boy who got their daughter pregnant that if your son does not marry my daughter and make an honest woman out of her, I'm going to kill her right here and there. But again, starting with the second wave of feminism, women said, it's my vagina. I can do whatever I want to with this vagina. You see, fathers back in the day, they knew that they didn't want their daughters having sex, particularly at a young age, because if their daughters got pregnant, say, while they were in high school or even while they were in college, who was going to take care of that baby? Huh? Financially, who was going to take care of that baby? The father didn't want to have to take care of the baby. He wanted to take care of his granddaughter. He wanted his daughter's husband to take care of his grandchildren financially. He didn't want his daughters just getting pregnant by some just random dude that wasn't going to speak to his daughter again. I'll say there's a good number of fathers that are like that to this day. I know some of my own male friends. They don't want their teenage daughters pregnant by just any old dude that ain't gonna even, like, you know, don't even have any emotional feelings for their daughter. I'm a kinky liberal guy. I'm a very open-minded, free-spirited guy. But I'm gonna tell you right now publicly on this video, if I had a daughter, I don't have a daughter. If I had a daughter, I would not want my daughter having sex, ideally until she was married. Now, if she told me she was to have sex before marriage, I would be realistic enough to accept it, you know, and I would talk it over with her to make sure that she's, you know, a responsible young lady. But ideally, if I was her daughter, if I was her father, I would not want my daughter having sex with just some random dude, given that there's a potential for her to get pregnant. Now, the good thing is that in today's society, there's so many birth control methods, you know, condoms, birth control pill, whatever else, after the day after pill. I mean, a lot of pregnancies can be avoided much more than, say, you know, 100 years ago. But anyway, Women did not have the freedoms that they do now. So that's why it was heavily suggested by any woman's mother, father, or both that they remain a virgin until they get married. And secondly, you know, it was thought that no man would want to marry a woman who was not a virgin on her wedding day. I mean, again, nowadays, you know, Kim Kardashian, she made a sex video and she's been married like 2 or 3 times. But 100 years ago, in my mother's generation, my grandmother's generation, it was believed that no man would want to marry a woman if she already lost her virginity. But anyway, I don't want to digress too much. My point was this. You have women today who criticize men who pursue women for casual sex, but yet you all open the door for it. Women open the door for casual sex. Again, men did not protest for casual sex. Most men in society, we were fine with women only being willing to have sex with someone who was their husband. Not too many men were against that idea. But women had a problem with that. They said, why should I only be limited to being able to have sex with a man who was my husband? Women said, I want to be able to have sex with another woman if I want to. I want to be able to have sex with a man that I have no intentions of marrying if I want to. I want to be able to have sex with 2 or 3 men at the same time if I want to. I want to be able to have sex with a man within 20 to 30 minutes after I met him if I want to. And society says, sure, go ahead. And now, you women, a lot of you women, I would never say, I don't feel like inserting these disclaimers. You know, I have this thing. Rarely when I criticize some aspect of women's behavior, am I talking about every woman on planet Earth. As my friend Obsidian says, if it don't apply, let it fly. You know, there's another adage that if you throw rocks and stones in a pack of dogs, the ones who get hit are the ones who are going to bark and holler. So in other words, if any of my criticisms about women does not apply to you and your behavior, then let it just slide off your shoulders. I'm not talking about you. But for you erotic hypocrites out here who are saying things about guys like me, Alan Roger Currie encourages men to pursue casual sex instead of long-term relationships, and he himself has had sex with more women within the context of casual sex than he has within the context of a long-term, meaningful relationship. So what? So what? So what if I have? And so what if any other man has? Now, to clarify, in my books, Mode 1 and my other books, I do not specifically just encourage men to pursue women for casual sex. I encourage men to be upfront, specific, and straightforward about all of their desires, interests, and intentions, whether it's a desire for long-term monogamous sex, a desire for long-term non-monogamous sex, a desire for short-term monogamous sex, or a desire for short-term non-monogamous sex. So if you read my books thoroughly, I do not just exclusively encourage men to pursue casual sex. But look, for argument's sake, let's say I did. Gotta get another swig of water because my mouth gets dry. Hold on a second. This is strawberry lemonade, vitamin zero. I love this shit. So yeah. Wait a minute, before I go on. Some woman, I just mentioned Obsidian a couple minutes ago. I was in the comment section of one of his videos. And Some woman said, I saw Alan Roger Currie in a video, and it looked like he had an S curl or something like that. Obviously, this woman has never seen a picture of my father. Because my father, everybody who knew my father knows, my father had like what's known as white boy curly hair. So my hair has always been a mixture of my mother's hair and my father's hair. Okay. So I think I read this chart about a year ago. It said everybody has one of 12 grades of hair. It's 1A, 1B, 1C, 2A, 2B, 2C, 3A, 3B, 3C, and 4A, 4B, 4C. 1A means your hair is like just straight, like straight as can be. That's 1A. 1B and 1C are close to that. 2A, 2B, 2C, that means your hair is more so wavy. It's wavy. 3A, 3B, 3C means your hair is curly. And 4A, 4B, 4C means you have tightly wound hair, which is referred to as coarse hair, or I think 4C is what some black people would call, for lack of a better word, nappy. I've always had hair that was in the 3A, 3B area. So all that to say, I mean, it was no big deal. I found it lighthearted, but for a woman to say, it looked like Alan Roger Currie using S curl. I'm like, I never used no fucking S curl. My hair is naturally curly. And matter of fact, as I've gotten older, because my hair is starting to thin out, it has the effect of getting curly or looking curlier than it did, say, when I was in my 20s. That's simply because I had more hair. But now that I have less hair, it's thinning out. It looks curlier. But so anyway, all that to say, no, I've never, ever, 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 ever had a Jerry curl, S curl, or anything similar to that shit. Ain't nobody ever put no little small rollers on my hair. No, not this brother. So I was talking about casual sex. So yeah, you got these women, including these two women who were criticizing me on this podcast. That was the brunt of their criticism. They don't like me, among other reasons. One reason simply because I'm friends with Obsidian. Another reason is because they say I promote casual sex. But again, you all asked for that. Women, the female gender, wanted the opportunity to have casual sex. Men, we've just taken advantage of that. So to suggest in today's society that it is disrespectful or degrading or insulting for a man to pursue a woman for casual sex is laughable. You hear me? Look me in my eyes. Look at me. Look at me. It's laughable. 100 years ago? Yes, it was. It was disrespectful to propose casual sex to a woman. Because hardly any of the women were fucking before they got married. So yeah, it was disrespectful. In today's society, everybody's fucking before marriage. 9 out of every 10 women in society is fucking before they get married. So how the fuck is it going to be disrespectful and degrading? Please explain that to me like I'm a 5th grader. Women are fucking in the 7th grade now. Girls are fucking in 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th grade. Women are having orgies before they graduate from high school. Women having dick sucking contests before they graduate from high school. And you suggesting to me that it's, and other men, that it's disrespectful for a man to proposition a woman for casual sex. Get the fuck out of here. What the fuck are you talking about? You need to wake up and get in modern day society. And that relates to my article I wrote for the Negro Manosphere. And this will be my last point, then I'm going to wrap up. I wrote an article that was published just this week on O'Shea Duke Jackson's. I love his site. It's called The Negro Manosphere. Check it out, negromanosphere.com. I have about, I think at this point, 14 articles on that site, and there's a lot of authors on there. You got Ron Wales writes for this site. Donovan Sharp, who's well known in the manosphere, writes for that site. O'Shea Duke Jackson himself writes for the site. Mumia Ali, aka Obsidian, writes for this site. There's a few other guys. I think Anthony Williams, Josh Stiletto, Steve the Dean Williams, one or two other guys write for this site. I love it. It's a great site. And it's not just for black male readers, because a lot of my white male followers have read my articles on that site. A lot of white females have read my articles on that site. Black females have read articles on that site. So even though it's called the Negro Manosphere, it has readers from both genders and from all races. Big kudos to O'Shea Duke Jackson for creating this website. But my most recent article was criticizing some of the women I've been criticizing in this video podcast, which is these women who want to simultaneously, check this out. You have women in society who want to call themselves old-fashioned, respectable good girls, but they've been fucking. Okay, check this out. If you go to a car dealership and you say, I'm in the market for a new car, when you say a new car, that means a car that has no miles driven on it. Now, if I'm a car salesman, I say, yeah, I got this new car for you. Now, it only has 15,000 miles on it. But other than that, it's a brand new car, is, you know, tip-top condition. How are you going to look at me if I'm the car salesman? How are you going to look at me? You're going to look at me like I'm looking at you right now. Like, a car cannot be a new car and a used car at the same time. Now, actually, speaking of that, the car industry did come out with this in-between term, pre-owned, certified pre-owned. First, there was just new cars and used cars. Now, right in the middle, they have certified pre-owned. What that means is the car dealership is certifying that this car has only had one owner and he only had the car for a short period of time. So, like, let's say somebody bought a new car, put like maybe 10, 15,000 miles on it, and then he traded it in back to the dealer. Instead of calling that a used car, they call that a certified pre-owned car. Now I think there's women who, the equivalent for women is they want to call themselves a reformed or rehabilitated virgin, reborn virgin, something like that. But I'm just going to give you hardcore reality. Ladies, once you start fucking, you are no longer a virgin. You got that, get it, got it good. Once you start fucking, you're not a virgin. Okay? Doesn't necessarily mean you're a prostitute. Doesn't mean you just a highly promiscuous slut or whore, but it means you're not a virgin. Like, my mother only had sex with one man her entire life, and that was my father. That's it. Anybody who knows my mother, her two sisters, and anybody else who's close to know that, my mother's nickname in college was the Elegant Prude. That was her nickname in college, the Elegant Prude. What did that nickname mean? That nickname sent out a message to men that there was no way anyone was getting in my mother's pants unless they put that ring on her finger. My mother wasn't giving up the punani prior to men. And I would say 90% of the women in her generation weren't giving up the punani unless they had a ring on their finger. That's an old-fashioned woman, in case you don't know. So all you women of today referring to yourself as an old-fashioned woman, get the fuck out of here. If you weren't a virgin up until the time you married your first husband, you're not old-fashioned. You could throw that term out there, but if you done fucked as little as just 5 motherfuckers before you married for the first time, you were not an old-fashioned woman. No one in my mother or grandmother's generation would give you the stamp of approval of being an old-fashioned woman if you just start fucking before you get married for the first time. You cannot be a modern day sexually liberated woman and an old-fashioned prude at the same time. It's impossible. You cannot be a kinky woman and a prudish woman at the same time. Like I had one woman say, "Hey, well, I thought you men love a woman who's classy in the streets and a kinky freak underneath the sheets." That's from that applies to the man you with. See, it's a difference, say, if I'm married to Linda, and when Linda's in public, my wife Linda's in public, she carries herself in a very discreet, conservative manner, but then when she's at home with me, we get freaky deaky. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's a different scenario if you have a woman named Michelle that when she interacts with David and Tony, she carries herself in a kinky, promiscuous manner. But then when she interacts with Henry and Billy, she tries to act like she's everything short of a virgin. That's called duplicitous. Okay? That's called being sexually duplicitous. And there's a lot of women who fall into that category in society. So for all you ladies, my FYI to you, if you enjoy having sex with men who are not your husband, whether it's within the context of a so-called long-term boyfriend-girlfriend relationship, which is a bunch of bullshit, ain't no legal ramifications behind the term boyfriend-girlfriend. A lot of women treat that like it's the next best thing to being married. In the big picture, a man calling himself your boyfriend means jack shit. Okay? Let me clear that up for you. Like I met a lot of women who will say, well, I don't believe you should have to wait until marriage before you have sex for the first time, but I don't believe in sex outside the context of a boyfriend-girlfriend relationship either. Look at me. Are you serious? I could meet a woman tomorrow and tell her that I want to be her boyfriend, and we could fuck for the next 3 weeks. And then 3 weeks from now, I could say, well, you know what? I don't want to be your boyfriend anymore. What does that really mean? That's that random arbitrary title. What the fuck does that really mean? Now, she can go and tell her girlfriends, hey, I had sex with my ex-boyfriend, Alan Roger Currie, for the last 3 weeks. What the fuck does that really mean? Other than an attempt to protect you from having your girlfriends or whoever else call you some type of, promiscuous woman or some kind of slut. It don't mean shit. Only title, when it comes to male-female relationships, only title that means anything is husband and wife. Maybe possibly if you're someone's fiance, that title has some significance to it. Means a man at least put a ring on your finger. But other than husband and wife and fiance, all the other titles don't mean shit. They don't mean shit. Boyfriend is just a variation of a fuck buddy title. That's all it is. You suggesting that you're a monogamous fuck buddy, but you're still a fuck buddy. If you're fucking anybody you're not married to and you don't have a ring on your finger, you're that person's fuck buddy. Whether you choose to be monogamous for X number of days, X number of weeks, X number of months or not, you guys are fuck buddies. That's all you are. So don't throw this shit about boyfriend, girlfriend shit. Okay? So Crystal and Kerrison, here's my little message to you. Since you suggesting that I encourage men to express vile filth to women, I get a lot of women's pussies wet with my erotic dirty talk. I will say that with full confidence and no modesty whatsoever. I get a lot of women's pussies wet with my erotic dirty talk. Women love it when I whisper in their ear and tell them that I want to fuck them and how I'm going to fuck them and how I'm going to please and satisfy that pussy. So if that's representative of vile filth, then that must mean vile filth gets a lot of women sexually aroused. Listening to me? You women wanted the freedom to open your legs for a man without him putting a ring on your finger. You women wanted the freedom to open your legs for a man without him offering you long-term monogamy or long-term financial security. You women wanted the freedom to have sex with other women, multiple men at one time, sex in public, whatever your heart desired. It was you women who wanted that freedom. And society gave you that freedom. So don't complain about men who want to take advantage of the sexual freedoms and liberations that women were given. I have no apologies for my sexuality, my sexual desires and preferences. And any woman who's willing to open her legs for me and I'm attracted to her, I'm going to take advantage of the fact that she's opening her legs for me. And on that note, you can find my books at Amazon.com, my audiobooks at Audible.com. You can go to iTunes and look for my show, past episodes of Upfront and Straightforward and the Erotic Conversationalist. And what else? I offer, for men, I offer email consultations, I offer Skype and telephone consultations. I offer one-on-one, face-to-face dating coaching sessions. Matter of fact, I just returned from Los Angeles yesterday working with a client. I was out in Los Angeles for 4 days. I miss LA. I used to live in LA for 6.5 years and I miss it. I had a good time in Los Angeles. Yeah, it was cool. Yeah, so yeah, I just got back home yesterday. For women and couples, I offer BDSM lifestyle consultations. I offer polyamory lifestyle consultations. You can go to mode1.net/training. Mode1.net/training. That would be for women and couples. And for men, go to Direct Approach Dating as one word, directapproachdating.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know who was listening live. I haven't checked the chat room, the live chat. If I feel like this is something I want to do on a regular or semi-regular basis in the future, I will keep you posted. In worst case scenario, this might be just a one-time thing or a two-time thing. This was my first time, again, trying out. So if it was rough around the edges, you're going to have to excuse me. I've never done a live video podcast on my own channel. Again, I've been interviewed live on other people's channels, on other people's shows, but I've never done one of my own. This was my very first day trying this out, see how I like it, see if this is something I can do and want to do more regularly. So again, if I choose to, I will keep you posted. And on that note, Mode 1. Be easy.